The Philadelphia Phillies offseason is officially underway, and there are some difficult decisions needing to be made from top to bottom on this roster. But one conversation that we have not dug into yet is the full-out implosion that occurred in the bullpen and what is next for each of these arms. So we got some reports from Matt Gelb of The Athletic about the Phillies' intent for who will be back and who will not, and me and Luke are going to break down what our thoughts are on that, as well as what the outlook should be for this team for everyone in the bullpen. Before we dive fully into that, Luke, want to throw it to you to reflect a little bit on exactly what did go wrong with this bullpen in the series.
Yeah, I mean, just about everything.
Yep.
Your top guys just basically just went out and did everything they possibly could have done wrong. It's just bad from Hoffman, bad pitch from Estevez, bad from Kerkering, bad from Strom, bad from Alvarado, bad from Ruiz. I mean, I could basically just keep going and going and going. A bullpen that was once really promising this regular season finished the NLDS with an 11.37 ERA, 16 earned runs in 4 games, and the Mets hitters hit 357 against them in 4 games.
Feels like higher.
Yeah, it feels like it was like a 900 average against them. I don't feel like one reliever logged like a single out. Just really bad. Bad all around. And now you have some 2 really top right-handed guys that are now heading to free agency. And those guys are Estevez and Hoffman. So I think they're going to have some pretty hard decisions to make, but I think they're definitely going to be in the thick of it this offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And to dive into specifically what we're seeing on those 2 names, we did get this report from Matt Gelb of The Athletic, who kind of broke down kind of an offseason primer for what should be expected for a lot of the key names we're talking about. As we've been very upfront about, it does feel like there's some major changes coming for this Phillies team. Now, specifically with the bullpen, these are coming from the Spark Notes essentially from Philly Nation about the article, but this coming from Gelb officially, which is written, Hoffman and Estevez both want to come back, and the club wanted to get something done with both. Seems like both will be back, and Alvarado will be moved possibly after he fell out of the top 4 relievers in the pen. Now, my frustration with this, for starters, Jeff Hoffman was elite all year. All-star, real deal reliever. He was terrific. But then get to the playoffs, and he was unpitchable. Now, with Estevez, a slightly different story. Obviously, a guy who came mid-season. He was the guy who lit up the grand slam to Lindor. There's no dodging that one. I don't think he's this lockdown closer that we hoped him to be, even though there aren't a lot of those in baseball anymore. But I struggle to really, I guess, have the concept of just run it back and these guys are going to be better in the same situation next year. So, Luke, talk me into this. Why is the grass not greener with some other names, and what do you think on both of these names?
Yeah, so as far as the other names that could possibly be, you can look at a guy. The best right-handed reliever on the market's probably David Robertson. I don't really want any piece of that again. And then, I mean, you can look at a guy like Tanner Scott, who was really a big name for me at the deadline, last offseason, everything. That's definitely a guy I think they could go after, and I think he would be an awesome upgrade to this bullpen. But as far as Hoffman and Estevez, both of these guys are going to get paid. They're good bullpen arms. Like they're not as bad as they showed these last 4 games. And I think teams know that. I will say this, I think Jeff Hoffman lost some money this last week.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think that contract's going to be as high as it would have been back in July. But I don't know. I think it's hard to look at that series and convince anyone to run it back, but I think bringing both of them back may be their best option at this point.
Yeah, and that's a tough pill to swallow there for all these same reasons. Now, as far as the outlook, like again, Hoffman was great for most of this year, so it's tough to be too critical of him, but the facts are the facts of he did not step up when this team needed it most, and what's particularly frustrating to me is both you and I, Luke, stood up here and talked about how this bullpen is a reason why this team is different, that this is the best bullpen they've had at least during this Bryce Harper era, and you can even look deeper than that when you kind of extend things, and that just proved not to be the case. And directly looking at the different playoff runs, 2022, a 2.62 ERA is the bullpen. Last year, 2.33 is an ERA as a bullpen. This year, 11.37. It's just bad, and I've even seen some with them in the 12s. It feels like higher than them. It feels like they gave up 1 million runs in like 3 opportunities, that every single time they stepped on the mound, that ball was flying over the walls there. So I get, like, the concept of like there's not better options out there, but I also struggle to kind of come to terms with these are the options that the Phillies need to go with. I also want to bring back the Alvarado conversation here. I don't think it should be a foregone conclusion that this guy will not be back with the Phillies. I understand Jose had a down year last year. He did not look like himself for most of the season. But there's something about Alvarado when he's clicking. He's the most dominant pitcher on staff. He can rear back and just throw it by you in a way that a lot of these guys just straight up can't. I like that he's a left-handed arm. I love the power on him, and I still think there's something there. So I'm not in as much of a rush to kick him out the door as others, I would say.
Yeah, I don't really think I am either. I think he definitely had a tough season. I mean, obviously, you can just look at the ERA. It's not good. But I still think 2023 Alvarado is in there. I mean, he had a 1.74 in like 42 games that year. It was a really awesome season for Alvarado. I just think I think left-handed relievers are rare, like the really hard throwing good ones now. You don't see many of those anymore. So I don't think Alvarado should be kicked out the door. I'm not like campaigning for them to make sure he stays. I think they need to do what's best for the bullpen. I think having him as a later option for now is a good idea. I don't think we need to go really looking to trade him. But he's definitely has to be better because with the way he pitches, he can't have an ERA over 4. It's like, because when the command isn't there, it is out the window.
Yeah.
So it's a struggle for him to really get that going and get it. I mean, obviously, dealt with some injuries. He had the family thing late in the summer, so it was just a bit of a weird season for him. But I'm not like needing for him to get out of the locker room right now.
Yeah, that's how I feel as well with that one. And it's interesting, like Hoffman and Estevez, for starters, they're boys. They play like video games together, very close friends there. So it's kind of funny to me how this is tied. I just think like I've for a while been frustrated with this concept of not having a closer. Now, granted, the Phillies have tried the closer route with Craig Kimbrell, and that wasn't good enough either. But it feels like to me that Estevez is kind of the middle ground to that he's a guy that like can do it, but isn't really. I don't like the way that he's willing to let runners on, kind of pitch out of jams, play with his food to an extent. And he's like, I like my closers to be locked down, that they are like Alvarado, that they're going to try and give you your best. You're not putting bat on ball. That's not who Estevez is. Hoffman's closer to that. I also think Orion Kerkering's a name to bring in the mix here as far as a guy to be groomed for that closer-like role, but he's still very young. I thought he took a huge step forward this season as far as his pitchability, having a feel for how to get out of spots, that type of thing. Do you think in the long run Orion's the closer, and how far away do you think that is?
I think based on his age, yeah, I think he can be. I mean, the dude's only 23 years old.
Yeah.
He has a lot of time. By time opening day is here, he'll still be 23. So like I think he has the stuff to do it. I think he just needs to grow up a little bit more. I think he needs more time in the league. I think he needs more experience. I think being a closer, one, comes with stuff, but I think a lot of it is just experience and like knowing the moment. Granted, I will say Mason Miller is an outlier. He is sort of the outlier there, a guy that could have been a Philly. But just he is like one that you can't really compare many guys to because I think he's just in like a world of his own. But yeah, I think Kerkering can be this closer eventually. I think he has the stuff. I mean, we've seen the off speed that he has. I thought the fastball this year looked a lot better than it did in previous years. So yeah, I think he's an option there. He's obviously not going anywhere. He will be here for a while. But yeah, they're just overall, they're going to have a lot of decisions to make. There's going to be some tough ones as far as, the lineup and stuff like that. But I think the whole Hoffman and Estevez thing, it's not a lock that they're both back next year.
Okay, so if I pinned you down right now and made you make a call, who's in, who's out? You think both are? You think both are out? 1-1. What's your prediction?
I think they're both in. I don't think it's a lock that they're both in, but I think the most likely scenario is that they're both back. If one came back and one didn't, I think Hoffman will be back, and I don't think Estevez would be. I think Hoffman's going to make more money.
Yes.
I think Hoffman is a better arm than Estevez. I think Hoffman's going to have more teams that want him. But no, I think if I had to guess right now, I think both of them would be back next year.
Yeah, I lean on the same page as you. There's a part of me, I guess, for the sake of being different, my prediction will be Hoffman's back, Estevez isn't. I agree with you that I think Hoffman's the more likely, the more desired arm, and the more important to this Phillies team overall. That it's unfortunate that I don't think Estevez is exactly what we all hoped he would be. Um, he's not a bad pitcher. He's not a guy who'd be mad if he's back, but I'm still in fire everyone mad at the world mode where I want change here. But I understand the grass is not always greener, and you make some great points about not being that many options out there. So a lot still to be decided in this offseason, but I do think the bullpen is very clearly a bigger issue than we recognize it to be or expect it to be at this point. So the change has got to indicate that. So any final words, Luke, on that before we sign off here?
No, I got nothing. I just really wish they didn't like turn into the worst bullpen in the history of baseball for 4 games when they were the best, arguably the franchise ever had through the first 5 months of the season. But
Yeah.
that is the Philly way. That is what happens in this city. So nothing surprises me anymore in this city.
Yeah, you're right about that. So frustrating there, but ultimately we'll see what happens. We're going to be breaking things down every step of the way right here on Phillies Digest. So appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning in from start to finish this year. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you have not already. Dropping a like on this video. Me and Luke will be talking with you next time. Peace.